You're teaching them to grow up to be bad people.
How? Almost everybody celebrates Halloween. And like Luke said, I'm their mother, not you.
I don't care. You've dragged all of our future generations down a very dark and demonic place. And you've ruined the lawn with those stupid decorations. I really do regret letting my precious son marry you.
I ran to my room crying. Now she was saying that Luke shouldn't have married me? Hey everybody, happy Halloween. It's finally that time of the year again, but I have a story I wanted to share. It is about my mother-in-law and how she changed Halloween for my family, forever. This took place a few years ago, when my children were quite young. We lived in a neighborhood that many kids also lived in, so it was a busy community where many people could get together and make new friends constantly. My mother-in-law's name is Tracy, and I'll just make a few things clear first. She absolutely hated children, which was weird because her son is literally my husband, Luke. She also despised noisy settings, and we lived right in the middle of one. I constantly offered to buy a house for her in a quiet area just a few miles down the road, but she refused. So anyway, this story happened about a few years after she moved in with us. My family always loved Halloween, so I grew up loving it as well. We would do all sorts of activities together, like house decorating, trick-or-treating, and even going to haunted houses. But soon after I'd met and married Luke, I was very surprised to find out that he'd never gone trick-or-treating even once in his entire life. I wanted to get him in on the fun, and I was fairly successful because he then started dressing up and passing out candy with me together. After considering kids for a while, I got pregnant and we adopted an adorable little cat. About 3 years after our kids were born, Tracy asked to move in. I agreed happily, thinking that she could maybe help lessen some of the stressful chores and tasks we couldn't do, now that we had to take care of the toddlers. But I really hadn't known her real side, because turns out, she didn't help at all. Tracy basically lived in our home for free without any sort of payment. And on top of that, she was rude and sloppy too.
Julie, move your kid out of the living room. He's crying too much.
Ma, I'm sorry, but I have so many errands to run, and I can't trust putting him out of sight from an adult.
Oh my God. All the kids expect their parents to just be free babysitters after their children are born, huh? As the generation after, you're supposed to be serving your elders, not making them become your personal servants.
I just asked if you could keep an eye on him for a minute or two.
And I just said that I'm not helping you. You have never done anything for me, so why should I help you?
I was completely stressed out from everything that had happened, so I was obviously very excited to pass out candy to other kids to make myself feel a little better after having to work constantly to feed my family. Luke and I set up a routine together so that we could manage how to drop the kids off at daycare, then pick them up and all of that. We were also able to slip in time for the gym and other things we usually did before having kids. Tracy never stopped being an ass, but I was determined to not let her bother my feelings in my own home. So I attempted to just butter her up and brush aside all her rants about kids not deserving of anything.
God, do those kids next door ever shut up? They just play all day and never stop screaming.
Mom, it's summer break. I think that the kids over there deserve to have some fun after a long year of studying.
Ugh, what kind of hard work have they done? I've been through much worse than them, and you don't see me acting all rowdy and shit like that.
Yeah. Maybe you should go ask them to be a little quieter.
Oh, I will. Stupid kids will learn.
Hearing Tracy voicing all of her derogatory ideas made me a little uncomfortable, especially since I literally had 2 children now. What happens if they grow up and are just trying to play, but my mother-in-law decides to belittle them just for trying to have fun? I brought up my concerns with Luke, and he was also worried too. Babe, don't you think your mom is being a little weird about hating kids so much?
She's always been like this. I never saw anything wrong before, but I see what you mean now since we have kids.
You said your mom forbade you from ever doing Halloween, right?
Yeah, why?
Well, I'm screwed then.
You're fine. Just ignore my mom. She'll probably just rant over a bunch of her beliefs, but I really don't think she'll do anything too bad.
After talking to Luke, I knew that October 31st was not going to be a pleasant day in my house. Now knowing that Tracy has never let Luke trick-or-treat, I could tell that she was incredibly strict about the holiday. Trying to take Luke's advice, I set up my decorations for Halloween and bought a costume. I even got little ones for the kids and my husband. Since Tracy never leaves the house, she didn't notice all of the spooky characters and spiders hanging from the plants outside. That was a relief. I just had to hide the costumes for a few weeks, and then I could have my long-awaited fun. Halloween finally arrived. I was very happy and spent almost the whole day doing my makeup and making sure that I had enough treats to share with the many kids that lived around our community. Luke even came home from work early so he could put his costume on and be on time for the first trick-or-treaters. But, of course, Tracy came into the picture just as the doorbell rang.
Who is it this time? What the hell?
Mom!
Are you forcing my son to engage in demonic behavior? I've taught him to be pure all of this time. He's a good person and you ruined him.
Tracy, all we're doing is passing out candy.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Tracy was going into a full-blown panic mode, and although I felt a tiny bit bad, it was amusing to see her so worried after the 2 years of torture and weird speeches I've endured.
Where are the kids?
They're, out. Getting free candy.
You've got to be kidding. Kids don't deserve that stuff. Tell those things outside that you don't have candy. Where are your damn kids?
Mom! They're not even your kids. You seriously need to calm down right now.
I was very distraught from the whole situation, and Luke tried to comfort me. We watched as Tracy went outside and began to scream at the kids, demanding that they remove their makeup. The kids were relatively young, maybe only 10 years old, and I was furious when I saw their eyes welling up with tears. Mom, stop it! I was so upset and immediately gave the kids a lot of candy as an apology for Tracy's actions. Luke talked to his mom to distract her while I sat outside and gave away treats to passing kids. When the night had finally quietened down, my kids showed up with their big bags of candy. I did not want to go back inside because I wasn't ready to face my mother-in-law at all now, but I knew that I had no choice. I slowly opened the door and my kids and I walked inside. Tracy was sitting on the couch looking pissed and she was glaring at my kids.
You're teaching them to grow up to be bad people.
How? Almost everybody celebrates Halloween, and like Luke said, I'm their mother, not you.
I don't care. You've dragged all of our future generations down a very dark and demonic place, and you've ruined the lawn with those stupid decorations. I really do regret letting my precious son marry you.
I ran to my room crying. Now she was saying that Luke shouldn't have married me? I was already under a lot of stress from just Tracy living here, but this was a day where I really thought I'd be able to relax and have fun. And she's ruined it for me with her horrendous words. I woke up the next day and went outside to grab the mail. To my horror, all of my spiderwebs and skeletons had been torn to the ground and ripped into pieces. I was very shocked, and I looked at my neighbors' homes, and to my shock, they were destroyed as well. This had to be the work of Tracy. Where was she anyway? I knew she wasn't in the home since her shoes were gone. Weirdly enough, at that perfect moment, I heard someone making a blood-curdling scream, and I even got scared. The sound resonated down the street, and it really sounded like he was in some sort of pain. My cat was outside, and she began to stroll away. She probably knew where the noise came from. My curiosity got the better of me, and I followed my cat only a block or so down the road. We were definitely in the right place because the wailing only kept getting louder. The noise was coming from the backyard, and I walked around some bushes to investigate, and I was shaken to my core. There Tracy was, my own mother-in-law. She was using a taser on several teenagers in the backyard, and they were howling in pain.
Shut up, shut up. I don't care if it's a party, shut up. You're disturbing my peace.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We would have kept it down if you just asked us nicely. Please.
I quickly grabbed my phone and began recording what was happening. After I recorded for 10 seconds, I screamed at Tracy, "Get off before I call the police."
I'm trying to punish them. What part of that do you not understand?
My cat jumped onto Luke's wicked mom and left some very red scratches on her arm and face. Screaming, Tracy threw my cat off and turned her weapon off, glaring at me with a hint of nervousness in her eyes. I called up Luke and explained what was happening very loud and clearly. She gulped and I almost let a smirk slip through, as we both knew she was done for. Luke also called the police, who arrived very shortly. They arrested Tracy for assault, and even an ambulance came by to make sure that the teenagers were okay. Luke immediately kicked his mom out, and after she got out of jail, she was put in a retirement home. The place was known to be very good for elderly, but Tracy just made it bad for herself by acting arrogant to the workers. I hear that she's still miserable to this day, although I'm not too sure since Luke refuses to even talk to her that often now. Our whole neighborhood had known that a grumpy woman lived in my home, but they soon found out all of what she'd said and done. They were saddened that Halloween had been ruined for me, and set up a surprise party for my family, and I'm very grateful to them for that. The neighbors were also furious about Tracy and agreed that we had every right to send her to an elderly home. She was warned about the number of kids that had lived here and yet chose to subject herself to her own hatred. What do you think? Should we have done more? Thank you, and happy Halloween.